You'll never know when something interesting might just come your way. When we started doing our work today, we came across this bar, which is very interesting, has an interesting history. It started on the Santa Fe Trail, and a lady by the last name of Gregory, who Gregory Road is named after, started this little barn where they would sell livestock and kind of gather and drink afterwards. And it eventually became Percy's Bar. One of the things that was very interesting about it was that Pendergast and Harry Truman used to meet at this place. I guess it was out in the kind of out in the country, out of the city, and it was a good place to meet. So anyway, we got a good tour of the place by the owner, and I just thought it was really interesting. Apparently the original bar back is in the bar from the 1930s. It's really nice when somebody allows you in to sample a piece of good history like this. Hey, how you doing? Well, it is a little warmer now. I don't know what temperature it is. I didn't look at it. But it feels tropical, except when the wind blows. Then it blows some snow, and it goes down your privates and brr, brr. But, I know what I wanted to talk about. I think I've kind of found a direction. I've been kind of floundering around on this vlog. It's been mostly personal stuff. I know a lot of people are interested in that. But I'm really interested in history and local history. And so, stuff like today, whenever I come across something interesting, I'll try and do a little thing about it. And, yesterday was when I went to Vietnam Cafe, and I was in the historic Northeast neighborhood, the Italian section of town at one time, and I know one of the things I said may be controversial to some people, the thing about the mafia funerals, but that really did happen at that church. I mean, there's no real disguising that, and I'm sure that when I think there is a tour group that does the mafia tour, organized crime tour of Kansas City. And that's one of their stops. Well, definitely the Northeast neighborhood, because that's where a lot of organized crime came out of in Kansas City. The Sicilian mobsters who happened to live in that area from the early part of the 20th century until really just recently, like 1990s. A lot of them moved out. But I know. Yeah, that's a bad stereotype. I happen to be Italian American. Not all mobsters are Italians or Sicilians or anything. Every ethnic group there's always been a minority among that group that have decided to do things the easy way, but that's not really the subject of what I wanted to talk about. Was really the direction I'm thinking I'd like to go with this is, obviously I love the city I live in, and I also love to travel. So there's two things that I can do, two areas of interest. Whenever I go somewhere in the city, I can kind of be like a tour guide of things that I know of, and and hopefully people who watch it will be like, yeah, I want to go visit that city someday. I think the phrase is be a tourist in your own backyard. And I would invite other people to do the same, follow the same example, and show what's good about your town or your city. Things that are interesting. Maybe, unfortunately, a lot of people who live in oh, here's an interesting area right here. Interrupt. This is the west side. This is the ethnically Hispanic part of town, and there's a really good Mexican restaurants here. And the west side is also the neighborhoods that surround this area, and up to the north of this part is a road called Cesar Chavez. And typically, if you see Cesar Chavez Boulevard, that's a tip-off as to the ethnicity of the neighborhood around there. And I believe a lot of Hispanics came to this area because of railroads. Railroads during the 20th century, early parts of the 20th century, were looking for people to work on the maintenance gangs, track gangs and stuff. And they had hired a lot of Mexican immigrants. And these days we're trying to say a lot of bad things about and stereotype immigrants, especially with our current administration. You know, you can see me gritting my teeth. Enough said on that. If it wasn't for a lot of immigrants who came to this country, some forced here and some came here for better, well, most came here for better, greener pastures, we wouldn't have the country that we have. And to try to say that the immigrants are to blame for our problems, I mean, there's been a lot of groups who've tried to pull that nonsense. Let's just put it this way. During World War II, the Nazis decided to blame and stereotype a lot of people, the Jews namely among them. And when they did that, they essentially destroyed themselves. They lost the war because they couldn't see the fact that certain ethnic groups contributed greatly to their culture and to their sciences. And look it up. Look at all the a lot of the rocket scientists, the nuclear scientists who came to this country fleeing Nazi Germany and brought that technology. The Germans could not get ahead in technology because they sent their best minds out of the country, because they just so happened to be one ethnic group or another that the idiot racists didn't like, and were actually actively hunting down and killing in their concentration camps. You know, it's something to think about. America is a great country because of the diversity and all the immigrants who come here. And for people to say stupid things and get themselves elected, again, I could go on forever on that. And, you know, you can see how easily I get distracted. Yeah, so Kansas City is a great city, great Midwestern city. We've had a lot of ethnic groups. We have very interesting history, and the diversity is what makes this city great. And so yeah, passing through downtown here on Broadway, and Bartle Hall to the right, which is big convention center downtown, and the church with the golden dome on the top, that is the big Catholic cathedral, Immaculate Conception. It's like drawing a blank. It's not that I didn't know it, it's just I couldn't say it. You know how that goes. That's the where the bishop for the local diocese is, and that's his home office. And I think they do mostly in that church, they do a lot of concerts and things. You know, they do a lot of cultural events in that church. It's probably one of the biggest, very pretty Catholic church. I think the Redemptorist Church is one of the prettiest Catholic churches in the area, and Redemptorists are typically known for being immigrant churches, speaking of immigrants and immigrant history. And so when a lot of immigrants came to live in this area, they would go to Redemptorist, which is at 33rd and Broadway. And there's the Coates House. It's an old luxury hotel from the 1800s, and everything west of Broadway was known as Quality Hill. At one time, it was one of the richest neighborhoods in the city. When we moved here in the late 70s, which says how old I am, Quality Hill, when you pass through it at certain times of the day, literally you wanted to roll your windows up and lock your doors, because there was so much suspicious activity openly out on the streets that it was really gritty and dirty, and yeah. And I'm not saying that in the sense of like you roll your windows up and lock your doors because you don't like the people that are around you. I'm saying it in the sense of like it was pretty sketchy, very dangerous neighborhood back in the 70s. And downtown at Kansas City had fallen on hard times, and it's since bounced back quite a bit. So yeah, and coming up to the Broadway Bridge, crossing over the Missouri River from Kansas City, Missouri into Kansas City, Missouri. Oh, I got hit a light first. But Broadway stays in Kansas City, Missouri. And when we moved here in the late 70s, this was a toll bridge. You had to pay a toll to go across it. And I believe it was 1981 when they stopped that, when the bridge had finally paid itself off. It was built in the 50s. And when you come to the south end, a lot of people don't know this. Over here on the south end of the bridge, you'll see an area where the bridge is wide. Like there's this, seems like there's this extra lane over here on the right, on our side, and over on the left. And what that is, that's the area where the toll booths were. And Kansas City International Airport, which is way up north on I-29, was built in the 70s. But before that, this was the main airport terminal for Kansas City, downtown airport. And you know, airports suffer from encroachment pretty badly. Encroachment is when the urban area is built up around the airport, and that's why airports tend to be, when they build new ones, they tend to be out in the middle of nowhere, because, you know, several things, several factors. I mean, look at the old terminal building. I don't know if you can see it on the video, but you know, that's like what, 1940s. But the about encroachment, one is airplane noise, air traffic noise as it goes over residential areas or whatever. Downtown, the airport probably survives because it's downtown and the planes fly over industrial areas. But it's not uncommon for airports to have neighborhoods spring up all around them, and then the neighbors start complaining. You know, the typical NIMBY, oh, I know I moved in next to an airport, but do we have to have the planes flying over? And then, you know, next thing you know, the airport shut down, and a lot of the economic vitality of the area goes out the window too. So that's one thing. And the other thing is, they don't like at the end of runways for there to be lots of population, for obvious reasons. If there's an accident or something, the airplane is going to go into a populated area and make the accident worse. So they tend to build airports out in the middle of nowhere. Anyway, getting along, getting boorish. I got to go home. So